we go into the second part of having a conversation today with Ms. Osifo and Yetty Iriah. I'm going to ask something which actually I'm sure loads of people don't really think about. Do you consider stress to be a mental illness? Yetty, if you want to answer that first, and then.
Okay, so stress is not a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
Stress is a normal reactive response to any kind of threat. So it may be a threat to, for example, people who are young. I want for the purpose of this discussion, we're talking about young people,
Mm-hmm.
People who are being, for example, the young ones or the youth who are having exams and haven't done any studying or reading, and then are waiting till the very few days to the exam, and then they don't sleep, they don't eat, and they have a heightened level of stress. So it's not the stress itself that is the illness. The stress can induce a mental illness. Now, when we are stressed, our bodies produce some chemicals or some substances. One of them is adrenaline, and the other one is cortisol. Now, in terms of cortisol, when we have high levels of stress, we have high levels of cortisol being produced. And what cortisol does initially is to shut down what we call the non-essential systems in the body. For example, it shuts down our immune system, it shuts down our digestive system, and then in the process, when the levels of stress subside, then we then go back to it then goes back to normal levels. However, when the body is subject to continued levels of stress, then the body remains in a continuous level of activation. And so that is when people start getting extremely anxious. They become very jittery. They can't concentrate. Their mood is then impacted. They're not sleeping well. They lose their appetite. And some of them put on weight. Some of them lose weight. And that is when the stress then begins to impact on their mental health, and then triggers off a mental illness. So stress itself is not a mental illness. However, sustained levels of stress that leave your body in a state of high level of activation leads to a mental illness, particularly anxiety and depression.
So this can staying on high levels of stress can result in having a mental illness,
a mental breakdown.
A mental breakdown.
Yes.
So I know we've been talking a lot about children and how these things impact children. But let's just digress a bit and go into adults, for example. Now, actually, you hear a lot of young people say, "I'm stressed. I'm stressed." Stress is actually is a lot of their lingo, but you don't always hear adults admitting that they are stressed.
I think it does vary, because I know that some adults do admit it, but I guess some of it also goes back to what we said previously around some of our ethnic minority group, and how people come from a family or an environment where they've been told to basically just get on with it no matter what, and they've grown up with that sort of nuance going on in their heads. So you will find that some people would do what we call suffer in silence. They don't want to show what's going on for them because they want to be seen as the strong, resilient human being. And they feel that just accepting that they're stressed means that they're almost like having a defeatist attitude to whatever is going on for them. But whereas some other people will come out and let you know that, look, this is what is going on for me. I'm not myself right now. So I mentioned before about being strong. Recently, I listened to a doctor in the States who kind of like brought a lot about that thing called strong to the forefront for me. And she said, how about we change that strength, that's being strong, to me, say like me, Liz, saying to you, breaking down the strong. So S will be, my self-care, my mental health is important. And my self-care, me looking after my self-care doesn't mean that I'm being selfish. Yeah? And T is me saying to you, I'm tired. I'm tired and I need time out. Yeah? And then the R is I need rest. So give me that space and time for me to rest. And I guess the O then is being open about how I feel. Being able to openly describe to people around me about how I feel. And will be negotiating that time that I need to be able to, gather myself again back to full capacity. And the G in the strong will be to guard that time, to guard my time, to guard my space that I need to take, and also to then eventually guard my mental health. So I think more and more with awareness, with this sort of, conversations that we're having now, there is some change happening in mindsets. But the more we create more of this awareness, people will start to understand that, you saying I'm stressed, or you saying, look, enough, I need time out. It's okay. It's okay not to be okay, as I always say.
Do admit that we're not coping, we're not managing well, then it means we're saying something about ourselves, that I'm not strong actually. I don't have resilience, and this thing has overcome me. I'm not standing properly. And I think maybe I'm being a bit hard on us. I think it actually works a lot against women. We have this thing that we have to be strong. We have to do it all. We have to manage it all. Especially now that we have women who are educated, going to work. They become wives, become mothers. And then we add church activity to it, add social risk, activity to it. It's a lot of stuff we are carrying. And just like you said, that if we now step away and say, you know what, I think I need to go into the room and have a lie down. I remember when my children were young, when we came back from school, I would go upstairs and lie down for like 15 minutes before coming back, because I had been spent for the day. Do you feel that we don't actually give ourselves permission? Because what you're saying is that we don't give ourselves permission to agree that we're finding it difficult to manage.
Yeah, I think that's really what I'm saying, is that we don't give ourselves that permission. And what you've explained is a good example. And I guess when you bring it also to women now going through the menopause, I guess that's a completely different story. But that does tend to force some women to accept that, look, things are no longer how they used to be. You might want to think that you can multitask and you can do 10 things in one day, but hello, no, you need to just slow down. Your body is telling you to slow down, because if you don't, then you are going to suffer the repercussions of it.
I want you to tell us, sort of medically, what happens when we actually sustain this, because what you're talking about is sustaining quite a high level of stress and the impact it has in the body. I have actually read saying that actually when we do this, the hormone that you mentioned, the cortisol,
Cortisol.
yes, it actually goes and attacks the weakest organ in the body. So what organ wasn't working 100%, gets attacked by this hormone, and then it then results in quite horrific sort of illnesses can come. Do you want to talk a bit about it from a medical perspective, and then we'll go back into talking about children and young adults?
Well, from medical post, I just want to keep it very simple. One of the things is that high levels of cortisol will go and suppress our immune system, and that is the ability for our body to be able to fight infection. So one of the first things that will happen when we have heightened levels of cortisol or heightened levels of stress, a lot of us will be able to identify with this, is that we start having quite frequent flu attacks. Some of us have eczema. Some of us have psoriasis. We start having different rashes, eruptions all over our body. Some of us have cold sores, and that is just because our immunity levels are so low as a result of the high levels of stress induced by too much cortisol.
As something that we can rationalize.
Yes.
What does S stand for? What does T stand for? And all of that. But what else can we do? Just like in 30 seconds, how else can we quickly manage that? One is acknowledging that I'm really struggling and stopping.
Yes.
Yeah. What else can we do?
The thing is about naming it. A lot of us don't name it. We are so used to, as mothers, we are so used to wearing every hat put on our head, multitasking, meeting everybody else's need, and we put ourselves last. And as we get older, then the body starts telling us that actually, like Liz said, you can't keep on going on. So we need to prioritize our own emotional and mental well-being so that we can then have that strength to look after everybody else. We need to make sure that we have dedicated rest times. We need to make sure that we go to bed early. Now, I was listening to somebody, and it's been medically proven that the shorter your sleep, the shorter your life. So, which is very important. And a lot of us don't have enough sleep, and sleep has quite a huge lack of sleep, and exhaustion has quite a huge impact on our mood and our behavior during the day. So sleep is very important. Rest times and refreshment is very important. Adequate nutrition, healthy eating is very important. A lot of us, because we work very long hours, we come back very late at night, and we look in the fridge, we eat all the children's leftovers, very carbohydrates rich food, and we go to bed, we eat late, and then it starts impacting on our weight and all of that. So yes, we need to name it. We need to accept that we are not as young as we used to be. We need to accept that we are under a lot of stress, and we need to prioritize ourselves.
Some of the activities.
Put ourselves first.
Okay.
Look after me. I need to look after me first.
Yes. I think if you don't look after you, nobody else is going to.
Yes.
And you have to remember that you are important, especially for women. You are just as important as the husband or the children that you're looking after. And I think this thing of acknowledgement and acceptance is something, I don't know whether you both share, in my opinion, that it's something that we actually wrestle with. I always tell people that if you read the word, you would see Jesus will ask people, what would you have me do?
Exactly.
Tell me what it is that you are having deficiency in, and then I can fix it. So, but we never want to actually say, actually, I'm struggling, I'm struggling with all the work I have to do. I'm struggling with managing the children. I'm struggling with managing my husband. I'm struggling with managing my wife. So we just go on giving a facade that it's all okay and it's all under control. But what we're talking about today is that actually it's impacting us, and we need to stop I love that strong thing. We need to stop and acknowledge where it is that we are now, and like actually say, you know what, I'm tired. I'm going to go
Yeah.
lie down now.
Yeah.
And can I just quickly add one for a second, that even as women of faith, one of the things that God is has spoken about in His Word is rest. Even God Himself rested on the seventh day, and He's promised us peace in the midst of our storms. He's promised us peace. He's promised us that we can, that He will give us rest. So it is something from a point of view of faith. Resting is not a sin. Resting is not negative. Being tired is not negative. God understands that after a long day at work, your body needs rest. And not to not give your body rest is to work against nature, and there are consequences for doing that.
Yeah, I think actually a lot of times people can't rest because they don't know what to do when they're not doing something.
Yeah.
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 So for them, they have to be doing something. And I think that's what they actually need to look at. Do I
And
really, so I think that need to be doing something, to be fixing something, rests within us. But we're just thinking it like we have to work all the time. But what is the need? What is the purpose? I think now I'm talking like a therapist, right? What is it what need am I meeting by doing all these things that I'm doing, which half of it may not actually be necessary. Okay, we're going to move back to a work that you both do together. But I'll digress a bit and just focus on Yeti because I know she has a special thing, interest in autism. So we'll talk about that separately because she didn't get to share about her journey into medicine, into psychiatry, into the working with children. If she shares a little bit about actually autism, because it's something that impacts quite a lot. I know quite a lot of people whose children have autism as a diagnosis. Then we'll come back to this work that you do with the maze. I think one thing I admire about both of you, I've never said it to either of you, is the way that you work as a team. As soon as I asked Liz, the first person, she said, "Oh, you have to ask Yeti so we can come together." And I really celebrate the fact that no, you are both walking in your strengths. You respect one another's work. You're working together for a good, for a purpose, not competing against one another, but working together. So we'll talk about what makes your relationship work, but we'll just ask Yeti because I know you have a special interest in autism. So if you talk a little bit about your journey, the career, and what part of autism you're working with at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Lydia. So, growing up, I didn't have a choice in terms of what I was meant to do. I come from a family of doctors. I have uncles and great grand uncles that are doctors, and my mom was a doctor. My mom is a doctor. So I didn't really have much of a choice. I would say it was just like a given as the first child. This is what you are This is what you are going to do. So I had my primary medical education in back home in Nigeria, and then I came over to the United Kingdom to do my specialist training. And I've worked for quite a number of years with adults, and I just kind of stumbled into child and adolescents because I felt there was a need to be involved actively in the kind of preventative aspect of psychiatry, and that's working with young children and young people and supporting them so that they don't end up with enduring or chronic mental illness. So I felt that I would be of more use I felt more kind of fulfilled to be making such a positive impact in that age group. So that is how come I kind of ended up in child and adolescent psychiatry. Now, in terms of autism, again, I have back home in Nigeria, I had quite a number of families who were struggling with children who had been diagnosed with autism. And back then, we're talking about 15, 20 years ago, autism wasn't something that was widely recognized in Nigeria. A lot of them had to travel abroad to be able to get the diagnosis and the help that they needed. So when I kind of narrowed in on what I wanted to do in terms of psychiatry, I decided to kind of focus on autism, and I have been trained in different assessment processes in autism, and in terms of assessing children, early diagnosis, and also support and treatment. That is something that I totally enjoy.
Okay.
Now, you wanted to know about autism. So autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. People who have autism are born with autism. It is just that it manifests at different ages for different people. It's more common in boys than girls. As a matter of fact, girls tend to be diagnosed much later than boys, especially more likely to be diagnosed in their teens, while boys are diagnosed much earlier, between the age of 5 and 10. Now, essentially, people who have autism have difficulty with social interaction, social communication, and have a range of repetitive behavior. So that's, in a nutshell, my journey through psychiatry, and also a little bit about autism.
Okay, and ADHD?
Now, ADHD is very common. One of the two, apart from depression and anxiety, autism and ADHD are things that are quite common in child and adolescent psychiatry. So ADHD stands for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It just means that children find it difficult to sit still. They find it difficult to pay attention, and they act without thinking. So they have hyperactivity, they have inattention, and they have impulsivity in various degrees, or in different combinations of the three. So that's ADHD in a nutshell.
So I know autism is something that we're much more aware of than we were a couple of years ago. And where do you think it's going now? Because I know people manage it. I even had clients who are much older who is telling me, actually, I'm going for a test, I'm going to have an autism test because they think I might have. So there are some people who are functioning, functioning like all of us.
Yes.
But may have the traits. Some people. So do you want to talk a little bit about the spectrum and the work that is?
Yes. So now autism, I want to say, is not it's not considered a mental illness in the sense of mental illness. Okay. However, there are associated conditions. Autism has a number of associated conditions that may fall under the umbrella of a mental illness. So while autism does not have a cure, however, we can treat the associated conditions that come along with autism. And by treating those conditions, things like anxiety, things like depression, things like ADHD, things like eating disorders or substance misuse disorders, by treating those, we are easing the burden of the diagnosis of autism on the sufferer and on their families. So now autism exists on a spectrum. So it is in terms of, we look at the severity in terms of how much support that individual needs. So the more severe the autism, then the more support that child and their family will require in terms of education, in terms of social skills, in terms of support for the family. So it exists on a spectrum from mild to severe. And at the lower end of the spectrum, at the more severe end of the spectrum, there are a lot of children with what I would call, some of them have learning difficulties, some of them are non-verbal. One of the symptoms of autism is either a lack of development of language or the loss of established language. So people may have already been young children may already have developed language, then suddenly lose that skill, and the other another set of children may not have developed language at all. So the lack of language is quite, in terms of the diagnosis of autism, is one of the symptoms.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I know you're married and you have 4 children, which is a major feat in London. I mean, not. I don't know if you live in the UK, to managing 4 children and a husband and a career. We'll maybe talk a bit about that at the end. I wanted to talk about the work that both of you are involved in. It's a counseling practice that is called the Maze. If you can share with us what the vision is, how you decided to come together, what it provides, how it works, who comes to you, your clientele, your client group. Who wants to go first?
Okay, maybe I'll talk about the Maze and then Liz will tell you what we do. Because Liz is good at explaining and describing. So first of all, the Maze, people wonder, why did we choose that word maze? Myself and Liz were sitting down one day and we said, you know what, myself and Liz have been friends for years and years and years, and we're more like sisters, more or less. And we have a common interest in mental illness. And we said, let's use our love for mental illness as a way of supporting our community. So let's start something. So, I thought of the name, the Maze, because, actually journeying through mental illness, it's like a maze. You don't know where to go. A lot of people are lost. They don't know where to go, who to talk to, what's going to happen. They go this way, and they're unsure. They go that way, they're unsure. People are giving them, diverse advice. So essentially the journey for people who are going through mental illness and who haven't actually come to services at all would seem like a maze. So that is how we came to pick the name the Maze. So Liz, would you be able to talk about what we do and how we support the community?
Okay. So I guess in a nutshell, for your benefit, Lydia, when you think about mental illness or mental difficulties, when you look at people like us, you look at us as healers of the mind. So like Yetty said, that's pretty much how the name came. Now what Yetty and I try to do is we try and create boundaries within what we do in our professional capacity or in our day-to-day life to what we do with the Maze. In the Maze, we do counseling, advocacy, and where required, signposting. What we do not do is any formalized treatment pathway or therapy, because we feel that we're not equipped in a clinical space to be offering any formalized pathway of therapy or treatment. So we keep it very informal. We're there to listen to what's going on for people. We're there to share our experience with with what we see day to day and where our experiences come from. We essentially create very much an open space, where people come, they feel heard, they feel, what they're feeling is normalized, they feel that they're validated, they are able to have a trusting relationship and a rapport, and then we help them unpick what is going for them and their family and the environment that they're in. So that's pretty much, just to summarize, what we do with the Maze.
Or do you advocate for the young people who come to you?
Yes, so we work not just with adults, we work as well with young people, and that's where the advocacy bit comes in. Yeah.
Okay. And is the service free? Is it a free service?
Well, at the moment, the service is free because we want to impact on our community.
Yes.
And we want to give back. And a lot of people don't know where to go. Like Liz said, we do a lot of sign posting. And in addition, there are some people who come to us who already have an established diagnosis of mental illness, have possibly been on medication and have stopped taking their medication, and they have relapsed. And so what we do is to get them back to their community mental health service, get them appointments, and make sure that we get them back on track. So it's a whole load of possibilities, to be honest, and it's a very rewarding, really very rewarding to be part of people's lives and to be part of people's journeys. And like I said, we don't we work flexibly. Sometimes, most of the time we are counseling on the phone. Once in a while, we meet up, we book a room and then we meet up with families or individuals. But most of the counseling that we do, especially since COVID, has been phone consultations.
Okay. So when you say counseling, it's just posting the parents, holding them, or holding the adults until a different kind of help they can access a different help.
Yes.
And it's pretty much it's pretty much bespoke, so it's individualized, depending on what that person needs. That's pretty much it. And can I just quickly add, Lydia, how people can access us? It's So it's maze.mindful. That's maze, MAZE. .mindful, that's the mind and full, all one word, lowercase, at gmail.com.
Okay, so they can send an email to that address.
Exactly, and then Yetty and I will pick it up and respond.
Somebody will respond. Yes. So well done, ladies. The two of you sort of had a little giggle when I mentioned fees.
That's why I added that it is very bespoke, because obviously we don't want people to be put off in any way. We want people to come to us, and then we can then tailor their needs accordingly.
Yes, because actually a lot of times money can be why people
money can be a barrier. Money can be a barrier. So
actually sometimes it might be a family who is just distressed and just needs somebody to
exactly.
Because I think we take it for granted. Both of you represent what is actually good care, what a good consultant, a good senior practitioner nurse looks like, where you are holding the formality of the service you're providing, but you're also bearing in mind that these people are having to accept something quite difficult.
Exactly.
It's not every nurse or doctor or consultant that they engage is going to have the ethos that both of you have. So it's good to know that if they're confused and because sometimes people can go to, a consultant now and being told a lot of things, but maybe in that moment in their distress, they didn't hear half of it.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that if you're confused, you're not quite sure what was said to you, if you come to us, we'll break it down. We'll make you get what it is that you next need to do. And if you need us to go that extra mile and advocate on your behalf, we're willing to do that.
Yes, definitely.
So well done. Brilliant. Now I'm going to talk about something else you both do. Dinner with Jesus UK. Now both of you must just sit and have brainstorm ideas. Another thing I admire, you're not only brainstorming, you're actually doing it, because a lot of time we sit down and talk about how we can make a difference. People just moan and moan a lot. And when people come and moan to me, I say, you know what? You be the change you want to see. You make a difference in your own way. So it sounds like you guys are the change that you want to see. You know, not giving it to somebody else to do. Okay, who wants to talk first about dinner with Jesus? I think both of you are involved in that. Is that's
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yes.
I think Yetty will go as she was the visionary.
okay? So this is a Yetty,
Yeah,
Yetty,
it's a Yetty baby.
it's a Yetty baby. So go for it, girl.
Okay, so dinner with Jesus would be 11 years old in November. And it came to me, the idea came to me at a time when I was struggling with so much in my own personal life. And I sat down in my living room one day, and Jesus said to me, you can have dinner with me. And I said, wow, dinner with Jesus. And somebody, I remember sharing it with somebody else, and she said, oh, that's dinner with Jesus, DWJ, that sounds nice. And I said, well, I don't want to do this alone. I always like there's something about taking people along and sharing your vision with people and letting people come on alongside you, because I believe everybody has a little to contribute and more to add. So I shared it with Liz, and I shared it with a few more other people, and we all started it. Initially we had it's essentially a group of women, who don't necessarily go attend the same church, but share the same faith, share the same struggle. And we meet every 2 months or every 3 months, depending on what's happening each year, in people's houses, or we rent a hall and we just have people come to talk to us about their struggles, in an informal atmosphere. We have a conference every year. And then more recently, we've had the men have come on board now. So we have a men's forum called Legacy. And we've also opened up in Ireland as well. So we are still quite a small group, but we want to keep it small and purposeful. So yes, we are quite we also have a little prison ministry called Meet at the Gates, where we support people who are in the transitional phases of their lives. So yes, that is dinner with Jesus in a nutshell.
So the dinner means you're having dinner with
Yes,
contemporary.
so the dinner just means, we're having dinner with Jesus. We are coming to Jesus with all that we are, without any pretensions, in an informal, atmosphere, and just having fun and enjoying him, really, with other women, of course.
Yeah. So that's where I was going. So it sounds like a kingdom thing. It's not a church. Is not one church. But
Yes, so it has nothing to do with any denomination.
Yeah.
So it's an open forum, and everybody's welcome, everybody's invited. Yes, and we preach love.
Yeah. So and everybody brings. So it's a way of breaking bread. So everybody brings something.
Yes, everybody brings something. Yes, everybody brings something to the meeting, and we all share. It's been good. It's been very rewarding.
Okay, so and it gives the women the space to talk about
Yes.
their challenges, and
Yes.
everyone is just there to listen, not to judge, just to be alongside.
Yes. So just to be alongside, non-judgmental, it's a confidential space. And we also have the Spill It Out. More recently, we started the Spill It Out lounge, especially now post-COVID, when we are not able to meet. So we have a confidential safe space on Zoom or Microsoft Teams every other month, and we choose a topic, and it's by invitation only. It's entirely confidential. We are not hoping to have a crusade on Zoom. We just want to kind of support those people who are going through specific issues in a confidential and a safe space.
Yeah.
Liz, do you want to add to?
Yeah, I think Yetty's just summarized everything, pretty much what we do. It's a very safe and confidential and trusting space, and we always kind of like try and keep it that closely knit so that people feel, reassured that whatever they're leaving with us stays right there.
Within the
It's
group.
not about gathering people. We're very much non-denominational, so it's not about, like the word Yetty use. It's not a crusade. It's just a very private, confidential space. So we encourage women to bring whatever is going on for them into that non-judgmental state, non-judgmental space.
And the spill out, is that because of COVID, or is it sort of a growing arm of
So we've always had the spill it out
cafe?
integrated into DWJ, but what we're explaining is that more recently with COVID, because obviously we're unable to have our formal meetings where we meet more kind of like face to face in either we rent a small hall or places like that. So we're now utilizing the virtual platform to have the spill it out.
Okay. And how have you found that? Have you found that it's been any different? It's been better, it's worse? What's been your experience? Because we've all had to do it.
Yes.
Have virtual meetings.
Yeah.
I think now I attend more meetings than I did before because
Yes.
Yeah.
people
Yes.
say no. Now
Yes.
I'm going from one group to another. So how has
Yeah.
that impacted us as women and
Yes.
our well-being and all of that?
Yeah. Go ahead, Yetty.
Okay. I would say that it has been very encouraging, and to be honest, people, I don't need to think about what I'm going to wear, how I'm going to get there, whether there's parking. I don't even need to bring food for everybody anymore. I just need to make sure that I have the link, and I log on at the set time. So a lot of women have found this quite useful, quite comfortable, and are able in their, put their children to bed or make sure they've done dinner and then just have a safe spot in their living room, get their phone or their iPad on and log on to Zoom. And then we have a conversation without having to leave their environment. So I think that this is the virtual platforms are the future now, for a whole range of interactions. And I personally, I have found it quite useful, and easier than having to gather people together and think about the logistics, think about space, think about the hall, think about who can come. People, so like the last meeting we had a facilitator all the way from Nigeria. We had people logging on from Abuja, from Lagos, from Ireland. That would have been impossible if we had to meet face to face. So the possibilities are endless. And look at what we are doing today now. We would have been in your studio, I would have had to drive all the way to your studio to have this, but look at the possibilities. The possibilities are endless. Yes, so this is it's quite interesting times.
Liz, do you want to add, or we can move on?
Absolutely concur.
Okay, all right. We'll stay with you, Liz, because you do a different. I guess you're sort of planning your exit when you do leave. Being a nurse, we had a conversation. You said, "Oh, actually, DBT is my way." You were very like, "This is where I want to go." So actually, because even I see it on people's profiles. I've seen it on counseling journals, but it's not a practice that I'm familiar with. So if you can explain to me as well as everybody else, talk about.
I guess a start-off point is to put everybody's minds at rest out there. So, my NHS management don't think I'm trying to retire just yet. I'm still very much in the core of what I do. I guess coming into a child and adolescent mental health service with quite a vast array of different kind of eclectic, work that I'd done previously, and bringing all that experience together, I decided to find one therapy to try and put in the mix of everything that I have to offer these families. So hence the dialectical behavioral therapy. So DBT, in a nutshell, what we call it DBT, is one of the talking therapies that we utilize in a CAMS environment. And it stems pretty much from CBT, which is the cognitive behavioral therapy that most people already know about. So where in the case of CBT changes, talks to you about trying to change, your thinking and your behavior. DBT also does that, but DBT goes the extra mile of allowing you to bring acceptance and change together. So it's telling you to accept what's going on and where you're at, as well as trying to now bring positive changes.
Okay.
So we use DBT a lot for a lot of our children that present to us, where we can see clear presentations of emotionally unstable personality, where their emotions are so intense that, whereas for some people or some children, when something happens, you talk about it with them, they pretty much will get themselves back to normal, or you can, for the want of a better way, you can say they snap out of it. But some other children, they have such high reactivity and high sensitivity to whatever is going on for them that it takes them a longer time for them to return back to baseline. So for those sort of children, we use DBT. And also for children that we can see are clearly, doing some harmful behaviors. We need to get them to stop those sort of harmful behaviors. So you can say for children that are, have comorbidities of like drug and alcohol, for children that are self-harming, for children that are, quite doing some life-threatening behaviors like suicidal, plans and intents. So those sort of children are the children that, we try and utilize DBT for, and we feel that they benefit from. So we do this over a course of the initial, what we call dosage is for a 6-month period of that module. So we bring in some things around mindfulness. So mindfulness, as Lydia, you probably know as a counselor, is very different from meditation. Yeah. So mindfulness, we utilize that to bring that young person into the present moment. We, bring them in so that they forget everything that happened yesterday or whatever upset them this morning. We bring them through mindfulness into that present moment so that they're able to stay on task. So we do the mindfulness, mindfulness. We do also the emotional regulation. We do the interpersonal effectiveness, where we, help them be able to build and sustain meaningful relationships, be it in their family, with neighbors, with their peers at school, with the environment, So as opposed to them, having, what is harmful relationships, we bring them into being able to sustain things that are non-harmful for them. And then we also do the distress tolerance module, where we help them be able to cope with the distress, what is going on for them at that point in time. We need them to be able to radically accept what is going on, and we equip them with, the skills to be able to tolerate that distress in that moment. And then finally, we then bring in the walking the middle path model, which is the bits that we do with them and their families or carers, where we bring parents and the young person into the same room with difficulty, but we bring them in because we feel that, this child lives in this environment. So we need all this, people around this child to be able to help this child to get to where we want, or this young person to get to where we want them to. So we bring that walk in the middle part module in as a last module, because it helps us then be able to say to both the young person and the family that, look, we need things around positive reinforcement, we need validation for both the parents and the young person, and those sort of things, so that they're then able to understand the entire modality and then be able to utilize that. And we say to the young person, what we're doing with you in CAMS, as with the therapy, is we're helping you be able to build and create a life worth living for you going into the future.
Okay.
So that's really what DBT is about.
Okay, great, interesting. So we're going to sort of round up now, because I know we've been at it for quite a while. Yetty, I know you've written a book, and I've watched one or two of your sort of Monday morning talk. So do you want to, and I think there's a book attached to it, because you mentioned it in one that I watched. So do you want to talk about what
Yes, so
do that?
okay, thank you, Lydia. Being the restless person that I am, November 2015, I started I've always journaled, but I said, okay, so people can, how do I bless people with my journals? Maybe, and I was kind of journaling one morning, and the name just dropped down. Monday morning coffee dropped into my mind, Monday morning coffee. And I said, okay, so I was, every Monday, I would, the Lord would give me an inspiration. I'll put it down on paper, I'll look, and then I began to, to write every Monday. And I did it every single Monday until last year, when I said, maybe let me put everything into a book. So I did it. I did a book. So there are 52 devotions, one for every Monday of the year. And really is just to encourage people, get their Monday going. And I've received a lot of support, a lot of positive reviews, and about regarding my book. And then a month ago, I said, okay, I will do 1 or 2 live shows. And I think those are the shows that you said you have watched. So let's see where the future holds. But there's always somebody out there that each and every one of us can encourage. And if it's just one person who wakes up on a Monday and is able to get going because they listen to me, then I'm quite happy. I feel quite fulfilled with that.
Okay, thank you so much to both of you for your time and the immense knowledge you've taken. And I think what has been beneficial to me, and I'm sure to the people watching, is that you've made it actually very simple for us to digest quite a lot of information. So we're going to finish now, but I'm going to ask both of you to give me a last word. It can actually be something funny, something personal to you, something that we can take away and think about. I'll leave that to you, so I'm not going to feed you. So do you want to go?
Okay. So I think 2 things I want to leave with people today is, I mentioned it earlier, be kind to yourself. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be vulnerable. And also, just let it go. Let it go. There is help out there. Seek out people like myself and Yetty. If you don't want to go through any formal route, we've got the maze. So seek us out. People like us are here. We're making ourselves vulnerable for you. We're putting ourselves out there because we want to go on that journey with you, and we want to help you as families change the narrative for yourselves and your wider world.
Thank you. Yetty?
So what I would want to say is that mental health is as important as physical health. We need to change the narrative, stop the stigma. We need to name it, to shame it. Mental illness will not suddenly go away without any intervention or treatment. Seek help as early as you notice anything going wrong. Remember, You have only one life. Live your best life. Thank you.
Thank you. What a full, actually, 2 weeks. We've had 2 weeks of this information coming from these two very knowledgeable women. So I thank you again for watching. Please send me your comments, talk about things that you would like for us to talk about on the show. My name is Lydia Kaleo, and I will see you next week.
LCBN television broadcasts 24/7 on UK Freeview Channel 271, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, Apple TV, Google TV, C Love World, LCBNTV.com, LifeComTV.com.
Standing in the middle of a grass field in the British countryside is the perfect setting to introduce this new and exciting brand launched by the Giving Stream Limited called Your Farmer. Direct from British farms, Your Farmer have a variety of products available. Whether it's a butchery product, diced meats, mince meat, sausages or burgers, or if you're looking for oven-ready products that's been slow cooked by a team of qualified chefs, a variety of potato dishes or vegetable dishes in both a single portion or a family range, Your Farmer has everything you're looking for. British agriculture is so important, and that's why every ingredient Your Farmer use is sourced from British producers grown on farms just like this in the UK. 7 days a week, 365 days a year, our farmers work hard to produce an excellent tasting product using high welfare farming methods. A free range, grass-fed beef and lamb, as an example, produces a high quality product. Your Farmer are proud of where they source the ingredients from, so much so that they've bespoke built a footprint system so you, the consumer, can trace every ingredient within the meal right back to the British producer. One simple scan using the Your Farmer app or by simply opening the camera on your phone, scan the packaging, and this allows you to trace every ingredient within the meals or within the butchery products straight back to the British producer so you know where your food has come from. The Your Farmer brand has a conscience. As well as supporting British agriculture, the brand has pledged its support to help support people that are living in food crisis here in the UK. Every time a butchery product is sold, a packet of sausages as an example, or every time a farm finest meal is sold, a free meal is then donated to help feed somebody in food crisis. Now the brand benchmarks its prices against major retailers, so you, the consumer, are not paying for this. This is all done through the profits of the brand. But without your custom, we are unable to offer this support. So if you're an individual consumer looking to do a family shop, or you're a buyer of a commercial or government department, buy Your Farmer. As well as putting great tasting products on the table, you're supporting British agriculture, which is so important, and you're also helping to feed families in food crisis, which is equally important. So go to the store, check it out, download the app for free. This is a nationwide service and you will not be disappointed. Thank you very much for watching this video.